Jeffrey Dahmer was an American serial killer and sex offender who was active during the 1980s and early 1990s. Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He had a difficult childhood and was often bullied by other children. Dahmer's first known murder occurred in 1978 when he picked up a hitchhiker and killed him. He was known for luring young men and boys to his apartment, where he would sexually assault and murder them. Dahmer was also known for dismembering the bodies of his victims and keeping their remains in his apartment. His crimes went unnoticed for years, and he was able to continue killing without being caught. Dahmer was arrested in 1991 after one of his victims managed to escape and alerted the police. In total, Dahmer was convicted of 17 murders and was sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, Dahmer was attacked by other inmates and died from his injuries on November 28, 1994. Dahmer's case is notable for the gruesome nature of his crimes and the fact that he often targeted vulnerable young men and boys. He was also known for his attempts to preserve the body parts of his victims, which added to the horror of his crimes. Dahmer's story has been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, which have contributed to his notoriety as one of America's most notorious serial killers. The case also raised important questions about mental illness, criminal justice, and the impact of childhood trauma on adult behavior. Despite the passage of time, Dahmer's crimes continue to be remembered and studied, with experts working to better understand the motivations behind his horrific actions. The legacy of Jeffrey Dahmer is one of horror and tragedy, with his crimes causing immense pain and suffering for his victims and their families. It is important to remember the victims and the human toll of such atrocities, rather than the infamy of the perpetrator. Dahmer's story also drew attention to the issue of homophobia and the stigma surrounding the LGBTQ+ community in the 1980s and 1990s. Many of Dahmer's victims were members of the LGBTQ+ community who had been marginalized and victimized by society. The case also highlighted the need for better communication and cooperation between law enforcement agencies, as several missed opportunities to apprehend Dahmer were identified in the investigation. Dahmer's confession and cooperation with law enforcement after his arrest helped to identify some of the victims and bring closure to their families. Dahmer's case is a stark reminder of the dangers of ignoring mental health issues and the importance of identifying and treating those who are struggling with mental illness before they escalate into violent behavior. Dahmer's case also sparked debates about the death penalty and the nature of punishment for such heinous crimes. Some argued that Dahmer deserved to be executed for his crimes, while others believed that life imprisonment was a more appropriate punishment. The impact of Dahmer's crimes on the families of the victims was immense, and many struggled to come to terms with the loss of their loved ones and the horror of the crimes committed against them. In the years since Dahmer's arrest, efforts have been made to remember the victims and honor their memory, rather than focusing solely on the perpetrator. Dahmer's case remains one of the most well-known in the world of true crime, and it continues to be studied and discussed by experts and enthusiasts alike. Overall, the story of Jeffrey Dahmer is a chilling reminder of the dark side of human nature and the capacity for evil that exists in the world. While it is important to study and understand the motivations behind such crimes, it is equally important to remember the victims and their families, and to work towards preventing such tragedies from occurring in the future.
If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to be notified when more stories are uploaded.